So this week in the Real Review we're featuring sparkling wines, Australian and imported, because of the lead up of course to the sparkling wine season, which is the festive season, the end of the year, Christmas, New Year, etc. All the festivities that we have at which a great deal of bubbly is consumed. And today we've got two rosés to talk about. They are both Italian and they're both from the same company, which is the Gruppo Mezzacorona, which is a very large cooperative organisation in the Trentino area of northern Italy. And the two wines are both rosés, but they're at different levels, different brand names. This one is the Mezza, which is their less expensive wine of the two. And that one is called Rosato, which is the Italian word for rosé, of course. It's a non-vintage wine, and it's I think $30 a bottle. Whereas this one is Rotari, which is the premium sparkling brand of the Mezzacorona group. This is a vintage wine, Rosé 2016. They're both from the same organisation. I can't tell you exactly how they're made, but rosé sparkling wine is normally made with a reasonably high percentage of red grapes. In other words, Pinot Noir, which is the workhorse red grape of champagne and of sparkling wine. Pinot Meunier, of course, in champagne as well is very important. But quite often there's quite a sizable proportion of Chardonnay or some other white grapes involved in rosés as well, because you don't just want the richness and the body and potentially the colour as well of Pinot Noir. You want some lightness and some delicacy and some finesse as well, which is often what Chardonnay brings to a blend. So I suspect these are both blends, and they're probably both made as pink wines at the first fermentation stage. And so after the aging process, there's the disgorgement, the removal of the leaves from the bottle, and you still have a nice pink colour in the wine. If the wine is very young, it's usually a purplish pink tinge. If it's got some more age on it, it can turn into a more tawny onion skin, smoked salmon pink, that sort of more evolved pink colour. It's a good way of telling the age of a rosé wine. The wine I'm about to taste is the Mezzacorona, Italian Glacial Bubbly, it's called. Mezzacorona, of course, a big cooperative in northern Italy, not very far from the Alps, where glaciers, of course, are a thing. So perhaps the name Italian Glacial Bubbly comes from that. But it has that nice chilled sort of feel about it. That's what you want in the hot weather, is something nice and chilled and glacial out of the icebox. And that's what you've got here. It's a rosé, it's a non-vintage rosé. They call it a rosato, which is the name, the Italian word for rosé. Rosato Vigneti della Dolomiti. So that's the actual IGT appellation of this wine. Trentino is the part of Italy. And this is a wine that's made from Pinot Noir, Pinot Blanc and Chardonnay. So three varieties, which are pretty classic sparkling wine varieties, also champagne varieties. Let's have a look at the colour. The colour is pale, really pale. It's barely pink at all. When you look at it in the bottle, it's definitely a light pink colour, but in the glass it's barely pink at all. It's very fashionable to have this pale colour in rosé, still or sparkling these days. When I pour it, it's got a nice collar of fizz, a good bubble, good layer of bubbles on the top, and fine bubbles. Beautiful. When I smell it, it's very much about the fruit. So there's what I would call quince paste, poached quince, those sort of characters, but also watermelon and raspberry shortbread. So if you can imagine that, there's a shortbread character with a coating of raspberry on it. Really quite lovely. Very fruity, there could almost be a few muscat grapes in there. It's got that spicy lift to it. And in the mouth, it's light, it's delicate, it's restrained, it's youthful, it's fresh. It's got all those flavours I mentioned, A tiny little dab of sweetness, which just softens the wine and rounds it out. You would never call it sweet, but it's not bone dry either. So I think it's beautifully balanced and aimed at the market that it's aimed at, which is, it's a $30 wine, but I think it's meant for, not for people who want an aged wine of great complexity and character, but people who want a good party wine. It's a bit more than a party wine, actually. It's rather nice. The finish is clean and refreshing and appetizing. Moderately long, not particularly persistent, but that's good harmony, good balance, good drinkability. It's got all the right things there. How do we score it? We scored at 86, which is a good bronze ribbon score. And we've said, drink it now, don't keep it. It's not meant for salad. And as for a food match, we suggested classic Italian arancini, with the filling of melted cheese and a nice crusty toasted outside. Cheers. The wine I'm about to taste is Rotari Gran Rosé. Rosé is obviously can be called rosato in Italy if you choose, but this one's called Rosé. 2016 vintage. Nice and mature, 6 years of age on it, and it's a Brut level of sweetness. In other words, it's pretty dry, and it's metodo classico, which is the Italian name for the classic method or traditional method. French words would be méthode traditionnelle, but we're in Italy, so it's metodo classico. And this is a rosé. It's made from Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, which are two of the great classic varieties of Champagne, of course, which are also very well used in the Trentino region of northern Italy, where Mezzacorona, the company that makes this wine, is based. Rotari is the top sparkling brand of Mezzacorona. Let's have a little pour some fresh into the glass, and you'll see that it's a beautiful creamy foam forms on the top of the wine, which is just exactly what you want. The pressure, the gas is all perfect in this wine, and you can see that the little bubbles are rising steadily to the surface from the base of the glass, the base of the bowl. So of course the bubbles bring the aroma to the surface, so if you sniff that wine while there is a lot of bubble action on the surface, you will get a lot of bouquet. It dissipates slightly as the bubbles dissipate, but the bubbles are still being created and still bringing the aroma of the wine to the surface. That's part of the appeal of sparkling wine. Let's have a taste. Lovely nose. It's not just a matter of simple fruit. This wine has got some maturity, which is adding an extra layer of bready character, toasty character to the red fruit characters that are in that wine. And I think that there's a touch of the old quince paste, which I often detect in rosés. There's also a note of baking biscuits I get in there, which is interesting. You get spices as well as the baking, the cooking character of the dough that makes the biscuits. That's just a gorgeous nose, really. Let's have a taste. And the flavours are very good too. It's very similar to what I detected on the nose. There's that strawberry shortbread, and there's the baking biscuits and the quince paste touch of that. Beautiful, beautiful flavour. Lively acidity, fresh, zesty, tangy, refreshing on the finish. The acidity is quite noticeable by itself, but when you have it with food, doesn't matter what sort of food you have, even just some dips or some nuts or something, or chips even, you wouldn't notice the acidity so much. The acidity helps that wine carry the flavours of food. So there is good length to it. I think it's a nice clean finish. Good wine. We scored it 88, and it's a $35 wine, and we've said drink it now and over the next 2 or 3 years to get the best results. It's not going to get any better. It's not going to change very much over the next 2 or 3 years, but I think that the maturing has all been done for you. It's already 6 years old, which is good. It was disgorged this year, 2022, so it's quite a fresh shipment, and that wine is ready to go, and it will go really well with food, that wine. We recommend Vitello tonnato with that, which is of course a classic Italian dish made with veal and tuna, and a light dish that you serve cold, and this wine I'm just feeling really hungry thinking about it. Good health.